You didn't think I was gonna forget about you, did you? Here I am, coming to you from the floor of my guest room in a house that is full of demolition right now. This guest room is disgusting. The dining room and the parlor are disgusting. Oscar is currently sitting here on my lap, trying to get away from the noise. So if you hear some noise or some random music, that's coming from the other side of my house. But I am full-fledged in quarantine mode, working from home right now, so I figured why not come to you guys and talk about what we all have been talking about, COVID-19. You're at home and probably have nothing to do, so just sit tight. You can watch, you can listen. Let's talk a little bit about what you need to know about this novel coronavirus. If you can't tell, I am losing daylight, so I'm gonna make this quick, which is good because you've been hearing so much about COVID-19. You're probably filled to the brim with news and knowledge and information and all this stuff. So I'm gonna try, instead of giving you more information, I'm gonna try and help you kind of sort through where you should be getting your information and where you definitely should not be seeking your information, as well as some key facts that every single person can agree on. So let's get started and let's talk about, that's my dog, let's talk about the places that you should be getting your COVID-19 information. There are plenty of places online that you can go to get sheer facts, pure just information about this virus and what we should be doing and what it can do to you and when we should be scared and when we shouldn't be. So I'm going to list off, I'm going to have them in the description box and I'll have them over here somewhere. So let's talk about those. Number one, cdc.gov, aka the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. This is the number one. You're gonna hear people talking about the CDC didn't do what it was supposed to leading up to this virus, blah, blah, blah. Think what you want. The point is, a lot of the information you need is gonna come from there, whether it's symptoms, whether it's, whether or not you should travel, what social distancing is, just when you should go to the doctor, when you should get tested, all that stuff. So cdc.gov is a good one. Check out your state health organizations. For South Carolina, where I'm at right now, we have DHEC, the Department of Health and Environmental Control. I know Texas, my home state, they do have like a public health portion of the state government. Every state has something, especially for your more local maybe restrictions you might have or anything like that, or your more local cases of what's coming up. That's another great place to go. So do a quick Google search of where you should be looking in your state to make sure you're up to date on everything that's happening locally around you. The World Health Organization, WHO.int. Of course, this is broad scope. This has to do with everything that's happening across the world. Italy, China, the US, everything. So the World Health Organization is also a really good place to go. The National Institute of Health. Some places forget about this, and this is another great place, much like the CDC, much like the World Health Organization. It's probably going to give you a lot of the same information, but sometimes it's interesting to go through all these different sites and stuff to see if maybe there is something different on each one. I know NIH probably has a lot of articles and probably a lot of information on studies that are happening. The local news. I'm a little iffy on this one, but your local news and local government is going to give you some great information on what's happening in your backyard. If you are, concerned about maybe cases, or maybe you're a teacher, you work in government, you want to know what's going on, you want to know what your timeline looks like, the local news and local government can be a good place to look. But as we're going to talk about here in a second, the news is a place you need to be careful. This coming from somebody who watches the news every single day and who loves the news. There's still some things you need to watch out for. So those are the things I'm looking at. The CDC, state health organizations, the World Health Organization, National Institute of Health, and your local government. Let's talk about where you shouldn't get your information. Because as you know, based on the name, misinformed, it is just plain sad how much information is out there that's just plain stupid. I mean, I'm sorry. That just is what it is. There are more places you shouldn't go than places you should go. So these 5 things that we just talked about, keep those in mind because I'm about to pretty much take away all of the places that you probably normally get your information. Number 1, national news sources. Now, hear me out on this. I watch the national news all the time. I watch headline news every morning. CNN is on at work 24/7. My parents watch Fox News all the time. If I need to get news off the internet, I go to msnbc.com. So you're talking to somebody who's very involved with the news. But here's what I need to tell you. The news is on it's on TV, it's on the radio, it's online, it's on social media, it's all these things. These resources depend on your views, on your likes, on getting a reaction out of you. They're gonna be outlandish. You're gonna have headlines that are meant to get something out of you, whether it's fear, whether it's any other kind of emotion. That's what these people do. Now, I'm not mad at it, only because social media is like that, the shows I watch are like that, the trash reality shows I watch are definitely like that. So I get it. But keep in mind, you need to have your facts straight, and then you need to take everything else that comes at you with a grain of salt. You need to train yourself to have the right information in your brain ready to go, and then look at all these other things, all these other outlets, and be able to decipher what is important and what can kind of fall to the wayside or just not take up too much of your time. The national news is all around. That's fine. You're going to see newspapers, magazine articles, things on the radio, things on social media. You're going to see things on TV. When you're eating, when you're just getting gas, when you hear it on the little screens at your gas station, if any of you have that. It's going to be all over the place. When it comes to the national news, stay informed. I'm all about staying informed. Do not make that your sole means of getting information about this virus. Okay, so promise me. My favorite quote from Aristotle is, "It is the mark of an educated mind to entertain a thought without accepting it." So do that. Entertain it. Listen. Get your information. And learn to decipher what's good and what's kind of outlandish. Social media. Now, when it comes to news, when it comes to social events, current events and things like that, I love Twitter. I love Twitter so much. And honestly, if you go to Twitter right now, you're going to see at the very top, like if you're on your phone, on the very top, it's going to say COVID-19, blah, blah, blah. And if you click on it, you actually can get some really good information as far as numbers. Just like up-to-date numbers, death toll, number of cases, number of recoveries, countries, that kind of thing. So it works. But Facebook, Twitter, maybe kind of on Instagram, sort of, but mostly Facebook and Twitter. Guys, lots of people talk on social media. And just because somebody posts this quirky article talking about this new rise of cases that happened, blah, 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 whatever, it does not mean it's true. It baffles me how many people don't realize that they're spreading fake-ish all over social media. So when it comes to Twitter, and even if you're scrolling through that little COVID-19 section and you see, just people tweeting about it, guys, you just don't know. It's just not worth your energy to worry about what other people are saying about COVID-19. Get your facts straight, wash your hands, which we'll talk about later, and just understand that social media and the national news are places that will give you information, but it's not necessarily the end-all be-all information because there is an agenda. So we've talked about the places you should get your information, the places that you probably shouldn't get your information. Now let's talk about those key facts that everybody can agree on. I do understand it's a very absolute statement for me to say everybody can agree on. Whatever. But this is common information that you're going to see, whether it is on social media, the news, on cdc.gov, anything like that. This is kind of the universal statements that we can all understand is real. So let's talk about that. Number one, let's talk about the symptoms real fast. Here's what I can tell you. The symptoms can come about in a really wide range of days, between 2 and 14 days. So that's why when you see people self-quarantining, if they've been exposed, they're doing it for about 2 weeks, for 14 days. So that's the amount of time it takes for the symptoms to pop up if you do have any. Being asymptomatic is possible here. There can be people who carry coronavirus, or again, COVID-19, that don't show symptoms ever, but they're still carrying it and they can still spread it. Please understand that. Your symptoms, although there are, I don't want to say it's a wide range, but there are some that you hear about that maybe aren't as common. The most common ones: fever, a dry cough, and shortness of breath. This is solely respiratory, which is why it can be so dangerous, because it involves your lungs and it involves the oxygen that's going into your bloodstream. So, a fever, dry cough. A dry cough means it's not phlegmy, you're not productive in your coughs, it's just a dry cough, and a shortness of breath. That kind of gives you an idea of what we're looking at. If you have asthma, if you've had bad cases of bronchitis, things like this, it's kind of in the same vein as that. But those are the symptoms, and that's kind of what we're watching for when it comes to people getting sick during this time. A coronavirus is a type of virus. There are a lot of different kinds of coronaviruses, and those aren't new. But this, what they call a novel coronavirus, is new to us. COVID-19 is a new virus. And you know what that means? We don't have a lot of immunity to it because nobody's ever seen it until this year, or whatever, the end of last year. And there's no vaccine for it. So I am guilty of saying, oh, this is basically another flu. Yes, but it's a flu that we've never experienced before. And when that happens and we don't have a vaccine, there's nothing we can do but get it. And if we get it, we don't know how severe it's going to be. And we don't know exactly what it's going to do in our bodies. So this is why the novel coronavirus is causing the stir that it's causing, because it's new. The flu, the regular flu, influenza, has been around for a long time. We have vaccines for it. We have treatment methods for it. That's just how it goes. It's not new to us. So if a virus is new, we got to make sure that we have it under control, and we have to make sure that we are expecting the unexpected and prepared for anything. Washing your hands. The fact that we have had to put so much emphasis on washing your hands is disgusting, because everybody should be washing your hands all the time. So, bottom line, whether you choose to believe it or not, washing your hands is the #1 way to curb the spread of germs. Why? Because life is dirty and your hands get dirty. And life is dirty and your hands do a lot of different things throughout the day. Y'all, when you go to the bathroom, when you flush the toilet, there are microscopic particles that come up out of the toilet. No matter what's in there, those particles are going to come up. It doesn't mean you're dirty. It doesn't mean anybody else is dirty. It just means that it happens and we need to wash our hands. If you are handling raw meat or certain kinds of foods and stuff, there are things that are going to get on your hands that you cannot see that can spread. Microscopic particles. You use your hands for everything. You open doorknobs, you sneeze, you touch your face, who knows, wipe babies' butts. Or, hey, what if you're a nurse or something? You wipe old people's butts. You do a lot of different things with your hands, and I'm not saying you're going to do that with bare hands. I'm just saying it's important, guys. It's important to just wash your hands. Now, when it comes to washing your hands versus hand sanitizers will never, ever, ever do the job that washing hands does, but it can make a difference. So I've read several articles about this. That was my dog. I've read several articles about this, and basically the conclusion here is that if your hands are really soiled, so I mean like noticeably soiled, like maybe you're getting your hands dirty, you're touching like, dirty things, muddy things, dusty things, things like that, washing your hands is really going to make them clean. Hand sanitizer can help, but your hand sanitizer has to be about 60% alcohol. So when you're looking at hand sanitizers, make sure you're seeing that. 60% alcohol in there is going to make somewhat of a difference when you're on the go, or when it's, it's just several times a day, that kind of thing. Or maybe you don't have access to a sink or soap and water immediately, so you do hand sanitizer to help in the meantime. Social distancing. I'm sure you guys are real tired about hearing about that, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. Please ignore my dog. You've heard celebrities talk about how much they hate social distancing, or they think it's a waste of time. You've heard people encourage you to do social distancing, and it is what it sounds like. In social settings with other people, you are keeping a distance. In fact, a distance of about 6 feet. Think about this logically for a second. Where is the #1 place that 100% sickness is going to spread? Anybody? Schools. Sickness always spreads in schools. I don't care if it's in elementary school. I don't care if it's high school. I don't care if it's a college, okay? If there's a lot of people in close quarters, like in a classroom of 20 people, sickness will spread whether you like it or not. So think about that. Where you have more people, you will have more spread of sickness. Think about the seasons. There's a reason that flu season and stuff kind of starts when the weather starts changing and starts getting a little colder. There's a reason it starts tapering when it starts getting warmer. When people are cold, they go inside. When they're inside, they're in closer quarters, and it's easier to spread sickness. Where you have less people, you will have less sickness. So in this case, if we can have fewer, if you can have fewer crowds, if you can have fewer instances of people getting sick, then maybe we can really help out when it comes to the spread of this COVID-19 virus. And hey, that can really help for certain populations of people, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But social distancing is literally curbing your social interactions. And you know what? We have a lot of social interactions already on social media. It doesn't even involve being face-to-face. So I think for a little bit, you're able to just keep a little bit of distance, and it might be good for you, and it's going to keep you healthy. So Why not try it for a couple weeks? Aside from social distancing, my favorite phrase to come out of this whole thing has been flattening the curve. Now, I have an awesome article that I'm going to put in the description box. Maybe I'll put a graphic up here, by the Washington Post. It's an article talking solely about how sickness can spread and what flattening the curve means. And you know what? It's exactly how it sounds. See, I'm going to go right here. There's a curve. Bloop. This curve has the ability to exponentially rise and then exponentially fall. We're trying to flatten it out so that instead of going like that, we're going whoo, and we're flattening that curve, bring it down a little bit so that we have the resources to care for people who are sick. That's literally it. Because if we weren't taking any precautions right now and then everybody was getting sick all at one time, and then all of a sudden all these hospitals and all these doctors' offices and all these resources needed to be used, they're going to get depleted like that. Look at Italy. Italy is the prime example of this right now. If we don't have resources, we can't help everybody. And that means a higher death toll. That means higher instances of severe illness or complications. Flattening the curve means that we take a break, take a step back, do whatever we can to help curb the spread of this, and then let it just kind of flatten out. And it does mean that it's going to take a longer period of time for it to kind of taper, but it's going to be less people depleting resources. That's all it means by flattening the curve. This is a protective practice. We are doing this to make sure that we don't end up like Italy, or we don't end up like other countries that maybe don't have the resources we do. We, again, don't know anything about this virus. We don't know a lot about this virus because it's new. So why are we going to play with fire? Some people might say we already have played with fire. Fine. It's fine. The point here is to say that social distancing and flattening the curve, so to speak, is a very good way to help the cause. It's a very good way to be cautious and to be proactive. So that's what we're doing. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not about inciting panic. It's about being smart. So that's what that is. My last point here, talking about the things we know. The elderly population is very much suffering. Whether you want to believe it or not, these are the people that we need to look out for the most, along with people who have compromised immune systems. When I was first hearing about all of this, I was getting a little irritated at the level of panic, at the level of just people, the toilet paper thing and people buying all this stuff. It was irritating. It really was. But I always think about, believe it or not, my grandparents and my husband's grandmother. I think about the fact that if this social distancing and all these things we're doing and the closing down of things and locking down of things, if that's going to keep people's grandparents or people's loved ones, their parents, all these people safe, and it's going to keep my grandparents or my husband's parents a little bit older, they're over 60, if it's going to help this population, why are you not going to help? Why are you not going to try? Why are you not going to be cooperative? Okay? My grandparents, my grandmother in particular, she just had heart surgery not too long ago. She had a procedure, and you know what? She does still go out. All of her kids and her grandkids, everybody lives across the country, which is kind of hard to deal with, but she has a great community of people who help her. But sometimes she has to go to the store, and sometimes she has to do this stuff. And for those people who are healthy, who could recover from the sickness if they did get it, or who are even asymptomatic, if you're going out and you're going through your everyday life, you could get in contact with my grandmother or somebody else's grandparent or whatever and make them seriously sick. That's the point. The point is to not think about yourself and to think about other people who could really, really suffer if something like this were to happen. And when I think about that, and I think about some of these nursing homes and assisted living facilities that have witnessed more people than we want getting sick and unfortunately dying from this illness, that's enough for me. That's enough. So please think twice. You can think this is dumb. You can think this is not worth your time. You can think all this stuff, but you know what? It's going to be a few weeks of our lives, and then it's going to be over, hopefully, and we're going to move on. But if by you not going out to a bar, or not going out on your Friday night date to a restaurant, or not going to the movies, or not going to work, if that's going to spare someone's life, why wouldn't you do it? It seems like an easy go ahead to me. So that's all you need to know. We talked about the places you should get your information, the places you probably shouldn't get your information, and some of the things that we know. You know what the symptoms are. I didn't want to get into things like numbers or tests or anything like that, because especially numbers, you're seeing that everywhere and you can get updates at any time. Go to the sources that I told you and you're going to find great information about if you do want to get tested, or if you know, what the symptoms are, or what you should or should not be doing, that kind of thing. Great resources. I don't need to say all of those facts here. I just wanted to give you those resources so that you are well informed. Leaving here, going into your everyday, probably quarantined life. That's my life right now. Just make smart choices, and please think of other people. Think about the people who might be losing jobs or who are not making money during this time. Think about the people who are more susceptible to illness. Think about your neighbors, think about your family members, and make sure that everybody is caring for one another. We're gonna get through this just like we always do. To be totally honest, although I'm not one to give opinions because this is misinformed, I will tell you that I am not worried. I'm just alert and aware, and that's how you all should be too. So I have a few more videos coming. I'm glad that I could film this. Hopefully it'll be shorter than my normal ones. We're in this together. I'll be seeing you very soon. So yeah, have a great rest of quarantine. Mwah.